Hi, this is Jason with Orchid Web. My cameraman just asked me what stinks. Well, today we're going to look at dividing Bulbophyllum. In this case, Bulbophyllum echinolabium. I would say it is a beautiful flower, but smells like shit. And that is the whole point of these. They attract flies. They need to smell like some kind of decaying matter so the flies will come in and pollinate them. Well, they have a sprawling growth habit, and often if we grow these, we will eventually need to divide them. So let's take a look at how I do this, and I'll show you the tools involved, and let's get started. So here I've got a small pruning shears, a larger pruning shears, and a hand saw, which may come in handy on larger plants. And this echinolabium here, you can tell it's outgrowing the pot. It's got multiple pseudobulbs all over the place. You could choose to pot it as one large plant, but it's getting out of hand. And I need to make divisions so our customers can purchase them. So as you can see, this plant is completely root bound. You're going to have to do some carnage. You're going to have to get in there and break up these roots, which is fine. They will grow new ones, no problem. Any orchid with pseudobulbs stores energy in these bulbs. So even if you completely destroy the existing root system, they've got the energy up here to just go ahead and start over. So I don't really worry about preserving the roots. I just do the best I can. So in this case, let's do two divisions. Let's take this clump shooting over the edge here and figure out how to get that out. My first method I'll show you will be with the shears. And as with our tools, we always sterilize. I like the blowtorch because that's fast. I'm going to start at the cross section I want. I'm going to start right at the base here and just cut through all those perfectly fine roots. This way, cutting from the bottom up, I won't damage too many of the upper bulbs. This is growing in a coconut peat mix. Bulbophyllum will grow in anything you put them in, as long as it stays moist. They're pretty easygoing plants. And you can see I cut through this bulb, hoping to just cut it at the rhizome. I damaged the bulb a little bit, not too big of a deal. And now it's starting to fall apart. I'm going to continue to go through this section. And I'm doing this somewhat blind, because I know once it comes loose, I've separated the division I want to make. Let me just pull a little bit here. Oh, there we go. So here we have a nice sized division. Now looking at this, it's kind of loose right here. I can cut it right there. Let's go ahead and do that. Just so I can make another plant out of this. I could have kept it together, but I'm choosing to do this because it's better for production. I'll go ahead and pull through all the root systems, and that is all I have left. A small root system with 4 healthy bulbs. Here's an old one, let's get rid of that. And there we have it. Now the next step is to choose a container. In this case, I've already have a 6.5 inch on me. That's about right. Could be a little smaller, but it gives this room to grow the next bulb, so I'm fine with that. And in this case, let's use sphagnum moss because that's a classic, and everybody uses sphagnum moss for Bulbophyllum. Here we have our sphagnum moss. I simply wrap the moss around the existing root system, like so. Roughly the same size as the container it's going to go into. That looks good to me. We're going to drop it in with the oldest bulb at the back of the pot. It's growing in a direction. We want to leave room for the new growths, which will come from the newest existing growth. I want to press in a little firm. I want this plant to be stable and not wobbly. And there we have your divided Bulbophyllum. Put a label in with the date so you remembered when you repotted. That way you'll have a good idea of when it needs it next time. Now let's look at method number 2. Method number 2 is with the hand saw. Let me move this guy out of my way. So let's sterilize that. In this case, I'm going to do the same thing I did with those shears, but this might be faster. Let's get this division off, and let's start cutting here. One clean cut comes right off. I didn't even damage a pseudobulb. Look at that. Let's clear off this old mix. And I'm going to do the same size pot. That fits well. But this time, let's show you that we can do this in another mix. We can do this in bark. In fact, personally, these types of bulbophyllum, I prefer bark. It lasts longer than moss. In the wild, they're growing on trees, so they are growing on bark. However, it's so humid and there's so much rainfall, there's also mosses growing on the bark. So they really grow in both materials in the wild. Same thing, oldest growth in the back, newest in the front. Press it down. And there we have method number 2. Now let's take a look at one more bulbophyllum. This one has really, really long rhizomes. There's a lot of bulbophyllum that grow this way. This particular one is a hybrid between Cyclocephalon and Medusae. I'll clean up my zone here. What do you do in this case? Well, to be honest, in the wild, these grow up trees and they wrap around the trunk. So that's really the best way to grow it. If you want to simulate nature, you could use a tubular piece of cork. You could make a moss pole. That's a great way to do it. But in this case, let's show you how to stick it in a pot again. I'm going to choose a bulb pan because the roots don't grow very deep on these. And let's go ahead and sterilize our shears again. I would suggest a minimum of a 3 bulb count when doing the division. Here we have quite a few rhizomes going in many directions. I can see right here, if I cut it here, I could have 2 rather large sections for repotting. So let's take a look. Pull it out here. This one is growing in tree fern fiber. Here at Orchid Web, we try growing these in every possible mix. And it's been hard to find one that they don't like. So, as I was saying, anything that stays wet, they'll grow in it. Cleaned up nicely. You can see there's really not much left that was in the pot. Those roots had all just tangled up and died off. Let's start with this cut right here. On this division, I've got, looks like 5 healthy bulbs. That's a good size. I would recommend that. Anything smaller will just grow slower. If we're going to be sticking in a pot again, let's go with this bulb pan. As these plants grow, you can kind of train them to go in circles and stay in that pot with stakes and twisty tie. So that's something to consider down the road. They don't always have to jump over the edge. You can somewhat control them, but they will always go where they want to in the long run. Let's go back to moss again on this one. This one's simple. I put the moss in first. Then I set the plant in. And now I'm just going to gently tuck in around this root system. If you have roots shorter than this, and this plant is not going in stable because it has nothing to grip onto with the moss, you can take a twisty tie, run it around one of these rhizomes, run it under through the drain holes, tie it together there, and then fill in your potting medium, just so your plant is not loose. You want it to be stable while it's producing its new root system. And within 3 to 4 months, it should be pretty solid, and you won't have to worry about that anymore. Tuck that in a bit more. We want to make sure this rhizome is above the soil level, because it will potentially rot if it's buried. They need the airflow. And here we go. That's a long rhizome method division of bulbophyllum. So that's our technique. This will work for all bulbophyllums. It will probably work for a lot of other plants with pseudobulbs. And yeah, if you like bulbophyllum, they are beautiful flowers. Just don't get too close unless you like the stench.